Guide pin boots are designed to protect the guide pins from dirt and debris and are an essential component for the overall function of the MAXX22T air disc brake system. To replace the guide pin boots and bushings on Hendrickson MAXX22T air disc brake systems, a 14mm Allen wrench, a handle, an adapter, bushing drive tools, a torque wrench, a wire brush, grease, new guide pin boots and bushings, and new guide pins and guide pin caps are required. To determine whether the guide pin boots and bushings need to be replaced, refer to the Checking for Guide Pin Bearing Play maintenance video in this series. Once the trailer is prepared for maintenance, remove the wheel and the brake to begin the guide pin boot and bushing replacement. Use a vise to hold the brake while servicing the caliper and carrier assembly. Carefully remove the guide pin caps and guide pin screws using an Allen wrench. Then separate the caliper from the carrier. Using a clean shop towel, clean the guide pin contact surfaces on the brake carrier. To disassemble the guide pins, pull the guide pin from the brake caliper and then pull the guide pin boot out of the boot seat. Place the brake caliper on a firm surface for removing the bushings. Thoroughly clean the bores. Next, use a handle, an adapter, and a bushing drive tool to remove the bushings. Assemble the handle, adapter, and bushing drive tool. Use this tool to install the inner bushing into the bore of the brake caliper until the tool stops. Next, use a handle, an adapter, and a bushing drive tool to install the outer bushing into the same bore until the tool stops. Next, use the handle, an adapter, and a short bushing drive tool to install a new bushing for the short guide pin into the bore of the brake caliper. Grease the sliding surfaces of all bushings and the space in between the long guide pin bushings. Using a clean shop towel, clean the guide pin boot seats. Push the new guide pin boots into each brake caliper boot seat. Then grease the bearing surfaces of the guide pins and the exposed edge of the guide pin boots. Now insert two new guide pins into the brake caliper from the inboard side and slide the boots over the guide pins. Position the exposed edge of the guide pin boots into the boot seats and ensure they sit even and wrinkle-free. Using a clean shop towel, remove any excess grease from the guide pin surfaces and push the guide pins out of the caliper towards the carrier until the leading fold of the guide pin pulls away from the collar. Now the caliper and carrier can be reassembled. Place the carrier on the caliper with the guide pins aligned to the contact surfaces. Insert a new long guide pin screw through the long guide pin and thread it into the brake carrier. Snug the screw with an Allen wrench. Repeat this step for the short guide pin screw. Torque the screws to Hendrickson's recommended specifications. Slide the caliper across the entire stroke of the guide pins to check for ease of movement. Next, grease the bores of the guide pin caps in the caliper and push the caliper against the carrier. Insert 2 new guide pin caps into the bores of the caliper. Finally, complete the assembly using a handle, an adapter, and a bushing tool. Properly replacing the guide pin boots can eliminate unwanted pinching and wear of the boot as it contacts the brake carrier, and helps to ensure that the MAXX22T air disc brake system operates at peak performance levels. Detailed information on MAXX22T installation and maintenance procedures and replacement parts is available on Hendrickson's website or by contacting Hendrickson Technical Services.